Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel. I am the co-author of the Death Dealer series, available on all good retailers, and I'm here with you today to talk about Preptober and October and getting ready to write your novel in November for NaNoWriMo. If you don't know what NaNoWriMo is, it is National Novel Writing Month, which is where writers all around the world come together to write 50,000 words in 30 days. It's a little bit of fun. The idea of it is to get you sat down in your chair at your desk and writing. Mason and I have created a Preptober workbook for you, which I'll link down below. It's available in my Etsy store or free if you sign up for our mailing list. I'll pop the link down below for you. So the last time I talked about planning your November and writing it and setting yourself up for a successful month, and I said that I would be back with a video on creating the characters for your novel. So if you have this document, you can just print it off. As you can see, there is week 2 with characters, and there are some sheets in there, and I'm just going to go through this with you, and I'm going to totally make up a character as we go through it, just to show you how to answer all the questions. Because obviously character is the main part of a story. Stories are about characters. It doesn't matter what the story is. You need a character, even if it's just one character, to take the story through. The whole story is about their character and their interaction with the world and the plot that you've created. You could write any plot and set it out as this happens and then this happens and then this happens, but if you change the character, that will change the story. Like, a lot of people think writing a book is about the plot, but it's not. It's about the characters interacting and going through that plot. So I want to show you today how we develop our characters, what we go through to make them into a more robust person. Character stories are everywhere, and if you think of your favourite film or your favourite book, it's probably your favourite because of the character, not necessarily the events that happened in that. If that story was told from a different character, say a side character, it'd be a totally different story. If you were to imagine the Harry Potter series and say J.K. Rowling decided to tell that story from Hermione's point of view, what a completely different story that would be. Because she's a different person, she's got different personality traits, she's got a different background, she's got different things to prove. You know, Harry was this orphan kid with no family. The story follows him through the 7 books, developing as a character, growing as a person, and eventually reaching the point where he saves the whole wizarding world. Now, it's not that Hermione wouldn't have changed the wizarding world, it's just that she's a totally different person. She's a book nerd, very conscientious, she studies a lot. Hermione and Harry are both brave in their own different ways, but Harry is very impulsive and would just jump into whatever came his way, whereas Hermione was very cautious. She liked to do everything by the book, she didn't like to break the rules, so she would research things. So when there was a problem, these plot points, whichever character you were following, the story would be different, and that's what I want to go with you today. Just with your character. I'm only going to go through one character with you, but obviously you can apply this to any character in your story. So I'm just going to switch and we'll go through the character sheets. What I will say is, as you're filling it in, if there are things you don't know the answer to, just skip over them until you do know the answer, because this booklet is set into character setting and plot. And each one of them will kind of stir your creativity. So as you're developing one, it might give you an idea for something else. You're stuck on something, just skip over it and it's fine, and come back to it, because you might be stuck on a point with the character, but then you'll be writing about the plot and then it'll click and you're like, oh yeah, I've got it, and so go back. But I'm going to go through this sheet fully, and like I say, I'm just going to make up a character on the spot right now, so it's not going to be the best, but it should give you a demonstration of how to develop your character and create them. I will swap over and I'll show you how I'm filling this in. I will say excuse the handwriting. So as I said, this is our Preptober workbook. You can get your copy below either by going to our Etsy store or just sign up for our mailing list and you can get it for free. Now, I did go through last week all of this about preparing yourself for NaNoWriMo and setting yourself up to write for the month. If you missed that, I'll link the video above so you can go and check that out. It doesn't really matter what order you do these in. I'll skip all that. Now, I didn't go through the week 1 section because it was more ideas, and there's a lot of prompts in here for you to come up with your own ideas on how to, you know, get an idea for your story. There's just an explanation. You know, we've included here Ray Bradbury. Was obviously a prolific writer, was very good at teaching writing to authors, and it's just some ideas to get your creativity going. But I'll leave that for you to read through and to do the exercises. For today, we're going to go through characters. So there are a few sheets to do with creating your character, because obviously, as I've said, characters are complex, and they are, in my opinion, the story. There's just a sheet here talking about characters. I'll let you read that at your own leisure. But then we have, obviously, there's going to be a character sketch in here. So we'll go through that in a minute. I'll just show you the other things for the characters development. So we have a couple of notes pages, because obviously as you're answering questions, you might come up with things that don't fit into that character sketch. And this is just a place for you to scribble those down so you don't forget them. Then we have the personality types, talking about traits here, and this is a fun one to look up traits. You can just do an internet search of them and you'll find lists and lists of traits. In this example, we've used Harry Potter because nobody is 100% perfect and nobody is 100% evil. We're all a balance of different things. So for here, we've used Harry Potter. And the traits he's got is loyal, brave, intelligent, kind and ambitious, which we know that's all why he's in Gryffindor. But obviously he has some negative traits because that's just people. I actually find the negative traits are really good for getting your characters into trouble. And if you look at Harry Potter, they especially did with him. He's impulsive. And if you've seen the Harry Potter films, how many times did that impulsivity get him in trouble? He's obsessive when he's got something in his head, he's on and on. He's vindictive, you know, he gets revenge on people that have messed with him. I don't actually know why we've got intelligent written there, because that's not a negative trait. But he's good at bending the rules. Now that gets him in a lot of trouble as well. So these negative traits are really good ones to kind of put the conflict into the story. So what we suggest is that you try and think up 5 on each side of your character, and they don't have to be big traits, they can just be like this. So we've put this in for the Myers-Briggs personality type. If you've ever been onto that site, we've linked the website 16personalities.com, and if you go in and answer the questions as your character, you get this Myers-Briggs personality type, and it will tell you what kind of a person they are, what interests they're into, and it's just a lot of fun to delve a little bit more into your character. The next bit is just to get to know your character a little bit more. Nothing gets us to know our character than writing in their voices. So we've got some exercises for you to delve more into who they are and how they would respond to the world. One of the fun ones we have is having the character write a letter to you, the author, and talking to you about their story and what they think of it all. And I'd suggest just setting a 10-minute timer and letting your imagination run away with this. Another exercise is writing a scene. We've put suggestion of the character was in a restaurant and they've got the wrong meal. How would they react to that? Maybe the meal had something in it that they were allergic to. For example, maybe they were allergic to nuts and they were given a salad with nuts sprinkled in it. And just write the scene on, because obviously different characters would react in different ways. And then we've got this space is to create a visual for your character. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to imagine famous people and what my character looks like based on them. And not just what they look like, but their house, where they go to work or school. So this is sort of like creating a vision board and printing off stickers, printing off pictures to just paste to help you as you write. You can have a visual of things that relate to them and obviously an image of who they look like or who reminds you of them. We're just going to go through the character sketch. I'm just going to totally make this character up on the fly, so apologies if they're not exactly the best. So let's give them a name. going to call them November, and the character role obviously is their protagonist. Now obviously these character sheets, you would fill it out for all your characters, your antagonist, side characters, love interest. Obviously not the person that serves them at the diner, unless that person becomes important, but all the main cast, you would do a sheet for them. So obviously, I'm going to make November let's make her 18, and she's got blue eyes, blonde hair. Let's make her about 5'7". We'll give her a slim, average build. Obviously she's female. And this is the personality traits, if you remember back on the other thing. So I'm going to give her a selection of good and bad ones. So she's loyal and brave. But I'm also going to make her shy. I'm also going to make her impulsive, and I'm also going to make her argumentative. So her history. So this is just going to be a brief history. She lives with her father. Her mother is an alcoholic. She's been in the foster care system. What else could we give her in her history? Perhaps she has a stepmother she doesn't get along with. And maybe because of her alcoholic mother, she was neglected as a child. Obviously you'll be more in depth than I am. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. What does she want to belong? To fit in. What does she need and not realise? Now sometimes these are a bit different. So she wants to fit in. She thinks that that's going to make her happy, you know, to fit in with people. But what actually needs is someone to show they care. And she needs a loving family. What's stopping them getting what they want or need? This would be her and her being argumentative. And she pushes everyone away, and if she would just accept that people do like her, then she would get what she actually wants and needs, which is somebody to care for her. So her past wound relates to her mother, and being abandoned, being put into a new life with her stepfather, obviously the foster care, and all this causes her to believe she isn't good enough or worthy of love and connections. And if you can see, all these things would fit into the story and make her interact with people different to somebody who was very accepting of herself, because this will cause her to push people away, to question their motives, to ask herself, why are they bothering with her, what do they want from her? So it would kind of make her a quite an untrusting person. We could add to her traits. So then you've got, what do they fear? Obviously she feels being abandoned, but what she actually feels is being alone, being let down, and having it proved to her she really isn't worth it. Because although that's what she suspects, she doesn't want that to be shown to her. How does she portray herself to the outside world? A lot of the time she shows that she's uncaring, especially with the stepmother dynamic. This is obviously an interesting one. You can have lots of conflict with that, with a father. If we threw in some step siblings, you know, she would be uncaring within the family, kind of keeping herself away from it. So she would be uncaring, brash, rude. They're all kind of protective traits of herself that she would have to keep people away. So maybe even a little bit self-sufficient, and maybe a loner. So she actually is the one thing she fears. So that's a good conflict. And what is she hiding from herself and others? How lonely she actually is. And how much she craves connection, maybe especially with her father, but obviously she's afraid of it and afraid of the abandonment, so you can see how it creates the conflict through the story. Then obviously we've got this character arc, because obviously who they are at the start of the story is not going to be the same as who they are at the end of the story, so they have to go through a transition. And we use the example in here of Walter White from Breaking Bad. If you've never seen that series, basically he's a chemistry teacher who in the first episode gets diagnosed with cancer, and by the end of the series he's this huge drug lord. And obviously he doesn't just go from chemistry teacher to huge drug lord that's, you know, on the most wanted list. There's a whole arc that happens, and we see him develop as a character into this goody two-shoes kind of person to this super villain at the end. And that's how your character arc goes. So obviously your character arc is going to be different depending on what your story is. So for me, with November, she's 18, so she's just going to be a normal college girl, loner who keeps everyone away. Now, because we've said what she fears the most is being lonely, but she is actually lonely. In the middle of our story, we're going to see those two things battling each other. So in the middle of the story, she's going to have that all in a mess. She's tried to make friends. She hasn't made friends. She's lost friends. But she's slowly starting to care for people. She's going to maybe slowly come around to her stepmother, you know, and how is she changing? So maybe she has a best friend, which she didn't have before because she was kind of a loner. And this is your character in their transformation place. So, you know, maybe at college there's a girl who everyone bullies or something like that. And just someone she starts to make a connection with. And now obviously, who is your character at the end of the story? Now they need to have changed. You know, maybe her dad has a disaster that he needs her to help with, and they kind of form a connection together. If you've ever seen the film Real Steel with Hugh Jackman, at the beginning he gets this child that's his son, and he's suddenly thrown into looking after him, and obviously he doesn't want him. And at the beginning of the movie, Hugh Jackman's character is kind of like this selfish guy, tries to sell his child, ends up stuck with him. And then through the story we see it changing, and they're getting an attachment, which is what could happen for November here. Maybe she starts getting an attachment with her siblings who she's hated. She gets a best friend, she kind of starts settling in. And with Hugh Jackman at the end of the movie, we see him and his son having this really close father-son relationship. And this child that he didn't want at the beginning, who he tried to sell, he realises that he loves him, and he didn't realise he needed him, but he is now an integral part of his life. So for November, maybe we could have the same, that, you know, she's quite a connected part of her family. She realises that she is worthy, she is enough, there are people that love her. I mean, obviously this for November isn't exactly the best example. I've literally just made it up as I've gone along just to show you how to do this, and your characters will be a bit more thought out than mine. But it's just to show you how to go through this character sketch. Now, if I was going to carry on with November, you know, I'd make more notes about her, who she is, who her friends are, things like what school she goes to, you know, just anything I could think of. And then I would go through all of these sheets and try and learn more about her. And like I said, when you're filling this in, if there's bits you don't know, it's fine. Just wait for them to come up. As you saw, that untrusting came up a bit later for me. And I would find other things. Next week, I'm going to look at settings, which is obviously just as important as character and plot is. Probably more important than you realise. But for now, I'll leave this here and hope you have fun creating your characters. Let me know in the comments if this has been useful for you, if anything I've missed, anything that would have been a bit more helpful. I love all the feedback to let me know for the next video, and don't forget to give this video a like and a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this content. Bye for now.